hard for me to share my excitement about things because I was discouraged so harshly not to share my interests with other people. And I think part of that is like the autism masking, because I know that I'm going to get way too excited about the things that I'm passionate about, and so I tend to like reserve myself a lot more, which is why videos like this are really, really scary. And that's a therapy thought that's just coming to me now. But I want to talk about my Gyaru Beach Club Endless Summer project thing that's going on right now. It started out as like, oh, I just want to make CD charms, or like little charms that just look like CDs. Like this guy, which you can't see very well because of the green screen. I'll put up a picture of it. But it very quickly became something bigger, and I think this is the first time that I have really allowed myself to delve into the world of original characters and really like give them the space that they deserve to be things aside from just pretty little drawings that I make. And a lot of people don't know that I started out making adoptables. If you don't know what adoptables are, basically you design a character or a bunch of characters and then you can adopt them out either for money, for art, or for virtual currencies. I was doing this all the time from like 15 to 19. I was making some pretty good money off of adoptables. In fact, for a while, I actually made more money doing adoptables than I was doing commissions. I'm gonna be honest, the art was not that great, so. But it was kind of like I would just make a character and sell it. I wouldn't really have any attachment to that particular character. So when I started to do my CD charms, I realized like I'm feeling a little bit more connected to these characters than I have with my characters in my past, and that was really new for me. And so I've been exploring that through a lens that is easy for me to understand, which is video games. I love games. I love gaming. I don't play games as often as I used to, but they were a very pivotal part of my childhood. I grew up poor, so I actually had a console generation earlier than the console generation that my generation actually grew up with. So think Nintendo 64 versus GameCube. I was playing N64 games while my peers were playing GameCube games. But I remember a lot of the games that really stuck out to me were ones that were more girly, less fighting and shooting people. Those things didn't really like stand out to me. Not to mention my mom did not like guns and didn't even let us say the word gun for most of our childhood. But I remember very vividly playing Kirby 64, Barbie and the 12 Dancing Princesses, Barbie Horse Adventure. I'm trying to think of what other girly ones I had. I really didn't have all that many games, but the ones that I did, I really held very dear to me, which is why I think exploring my OCs through the lens of video games kind of made it come alive for me a little bit. I've done 3 CD charms so far, and 2 of them have been very close to home. I'm working on developing the other one a little bit more so I can feel more attached to that particular character, but we're not there quite yet. We'll get there. We'll get there. This is my first soiree into actually naming my characters as well. So I have an alien character named Kyo, which I've talked about before, and now I have a new character called Jelly Sorbet, which sounds kind of like a stupid name, but honestly, I think it's really cute and I really like it. So Jelly Sorbet is my Gyaru character. Now, I'm going to preface this with like, I know Gyaru has a lot of rules. I don't give a fuck, okay? I just want to make something pretty. I just want to make something that makes me happy, and it looks Gyaru, so it's Gyaru to me. I don't care about the subcultures. Come at me in the comments. I named her Jelly because a lot of the colors that I was using reminded me of like jelly colors, and I also did some logo work for this. Logos are like kind of my second passion. I went to school for graphic design, and I really liked doing graphic design, but I dropped out of college because I realized like this is not really the greatest career path right now. I could see the signs. I'm looking at UAI. But I still love doing graphic design, which is why I bring it into a lot of my work now. And that's another reason why I ended up doing CD charms, because CDs have a lot of graphic design on them. And it just made sense to combine the two of my passions, art and graphic design. But the logo that I made for this piece was very jelly, very gummy. The text just looks like a gummy bear, and the way that I did the little shines made it look just chewy and yummy, and so the name Jelly just kind of stuck with me. And I don't know. I think Jelly is kind of a little bit of a cop-out name, but it was cute. And then Sorbet came from my Pinterest board, which you can actually go follow, link in the comments. I use Pinterest a lot for like curation of my art and stuff, but I wanted to use it in a more proactive way. So I've started to make Pinterest boards for my characters. One of the pins that I saw that I really liked that had the colors that I really enjoyed was a scoop of sorbet or sherbet, however you want to say whatever it's called, I don't care. But I actually ended up using the photo of that sorbet as inspiration. I also had somebody ask if there was a lesbian flag colors. That was just a happy accident, and that's fine with me. So the first piece that came out of this obviously was the CD charm. Once you have a CD, you need box art, right? So the idea is that I wanted to create like a little folder that I could put my charms into with box art on it. I looked at PlayStation 2 box art. PlayStation 2 was also one of my only consoles growing up, so I have a very deep love for the PlayStation 2, which is another reason why the fake console logo for this is Game Station 2. Obviously you have to keep it somewhat generic because you don't want to get like copyright troubles, but I wanted to like invoke that feeling of like, here's this console that you can play this fake game on. And so once I started to do the box art, I realized like the idea of having a fake game is super alluring. So I wanted to make sure that I had my game cover be really colorful, really interesting, very vibrant. I've been doing a lot of just like busts and like headshots lately, and I have been on a mission for a really long time to like improve my art and work on it more and really kind of level up as an artist. And I'll probably go into depth later on that topic because it's a little bit heavy, but I've been working on like specifically composition because that's something that I really struggled with and did not understand for a long time. And I actually ended up reading a book that helped me understand composition and put it together in a way that worked with my brain. For a while I felt like I had a more logical brain, like that math and stuff was better for me, that I wasn't very creative. I've since more unlocked my creative side, but I've realized that learning things in a more like straightforward way, a more logical way helps me. And so this particular book helped me break down the ideas into more logical steps. Like it was a science, it wasn't just like a magic, right? As much as art is magical and beautiful, it is also in my mind a science. Art and science are friends, I always say that. So some of the techniques that I wanted to bring into this specifically were my rule of thirds, my golden rule of thirds, my silver rule of thirds. For this I ended up just using the regular rule of thirds, but then I also used the I think it's called the silver rule of thirds. So the idea is that you break up your canvas into ratios that align with the golden rule. So I have a larger box section and then a smaller box section, and those two box sections make up the canvas. My skyline is actually on one of the rule of thirds lines, which makes it really interesting. Plus, I wanted to make sure that Jelly was looking right in that rule of third line as well as being directly on it. I try to make sure like one of their eyes is on the rule of third line, either horizontally or vertically. Don't look at my fingers, those are backwards. I don't know, I think the eyes are really beautiful and I love drawing them, and so I want them to be part of the focal, but I really tried to make sure that she specifically was on that line and she was the point of interest. Now, another big challenge that I had here was doing the posing. I have not done a full body pose in probably 6 months or more. I really tend to stray away from full body drawings. I feel like it's like my worst attribute as an artist. Like I'm not very good at it. And so that's something that I'm working towards, and I wanted to challenge myself to have something more than just like a headshot, to really like differentiate this from my art and to give myself a challenge on the things that I had been learning for the last 6 months. And so I went for something that I've never really done before. And I included a prop as well. I don't really draw my characters interacting with anything either. So having this little blow up floaty jet ski was really important to me to like really go above and beyond and stretch my imagination. And I'm really proud of how it turned out. I wanted it to be like a jet ski because on my Pinterest board I did see like a bunch of jet ski floaties, and so I really wanted to bring that in. I wanted to have a pool floaty, but I wasn't sure. So when I saw this, I was like, oh, that's the one. But I didn't want it to look too much like an actual jet ski, so I wanted to make sure when I was doing all the coloring that I really made sure that I made it shiny, and I tried to add in the details around the edges of like the lines of where like the seam of the floaty is, because on the seam of the floaty you can see there's like little ridges where like the plastic is kind of coming together and being distorted by the air. I don't know. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, she's interacting with a object and there's a foot in it. Okay, listen, I'm not a foot guy, all right? I'm not a foot guy, but I wanted to make sure that like the piece looked good enough, because I was just originally in the sketch I kind of copped out the foot, right? I just did it in an angle that worked well for me. But when I came back to the sketch later, I realized like this is actually kind of detracting from the entire piece. The anatomy doesn't look quite right. So I looked up a ton of references. I found one that worked really well with the pose that I had, and I just did my best. Like, it's not the best foot ever, but honestly, this is like the first rendered foot that I have ever drawn. Feels really funny to talk about feet, especially drawing. I was practicing feet drawing at an event that I was at in public, and I had somebody come up to me and just act very sus about the fact that I was drawing feet, and I'm like, listen, man, artists do what artists do, man. My mic died after talking about feet. This is a bad omen. Okay, so another part of this piece that I'm really proud of, I think maybe this is a little bit stupid, but I'm gonna have myself a moment of pride here. I did a rendered background, which I almost never do. Your girl always be putting characters in the void. But I didn't want to put the character in the void for this, because this was almost to me like a test of my ability. Like I said before, I've been working 6 months on improving my art. This was my time to shine. So I really wanted to add in a background. Now, granted, is it the best background ever? Not really. There's a lot of things that I could improve, but I decided to go a little bit more simple in terms of detail because I knew that it wasn't the focal point. That being said, I still think it turned out pretty freaking good for my skill level, and this being kind of like a practice piece. I didn't want to have too much going on in the piece. Like I said, this is the background. It's not necessarily the focal point of the entire piece, but I knew I wanted to have these big fluffy clouds because that reminds me of summer, and little birds flying in the distance. And I had originally only 2 islands, but then I created the island in the very back to create some distance, and I was kind of a little bit proud of myself for knowing how to create distance. That was a skill that I definitely learned. I also created a little bit of distance by making them a little bit bluer and having less detail the further you go into the background. The closest island, I think I could have spent a little bit more time developing it because it does look a little bit sloppy, and that's a problem that I have. I just kind of let things slide sometimes and I don't put in 100%, but that's also like, I don't know, like my foil to my perfectionism is sometimes I'm a little bit lazy about things. Like some things I'll be uber perfectionist about that like nobody will ever fucking notice this except for me, and then other things I'm like, nobody's gonna look at that. And then another big thing is like these waves coming off of the back of the floaty. I really wanted them to look like jet ski waves, even though it's a floaty. I don't know, I was kind of mixed on this, but drawing these big, fluffy patches of water was really like interesting and honestly kind of hard because I had to create a lot of depth in the color. When you look at the waves on the back of the jet ski, there's a lot of color. So there's like a lot of sections that are very dark, and then there's some sections that are very light, and it's kind of just because you're creating like ripples in the water, and so light is bouncing off of it in a different way than water that would just be standing still. And so I had to pull a couple of references to figure out what I wanted for this. I still don't think that it's the best. I think I could have made it a little bit like the directionality a little bit better. I think if I would go in and tweak this again, I'd probably make the curve like come down a little bit more. I don't know if that makes any sense, but like the big fluffy bits of water like behind her and next to her that are kind of coming up and overlapping, I'm really happy with those. I wanted to like make it look like water coming up. I probably could have added a lot more droplet effects, but I was like at that point like I'm scared this looks like shit, I'm just gonna stop. I was a little bit more conservative than I normally am. And then the last thing that I did was obviously my lighting effects. I always do like a color overlay on things to just bump up the colors, make them a little bit more saturated, because I really like very vibrant, colorful colors in my pieces. I've had a lot of feedback that my art looks edible, and that's something that like really makes me happy when I get that feedback. And so I really want my art to look like something you just want to sink your teeth into because it tastes so good. That sounded a lot creepier than it probably should have. But yeah, that's the cover art piece. Now, my next step for this particular project, I have to decide whether or not I want to do like back cover art or not. That is something I have not thought about until now. Because like I said, I wanted to make like a little folder that I could hold my charms in. But that also relies on me making copy, which if you don't know what copy is, it's just marketing, writing, which is something that I like doing for the most part, and I like doing it for my fake games that I've been doing so far. Hold on, let me pull it up. You know, I already have the copy for this. I already wrote about this on Tumblr. If you're not following me on Tumblr, what are you even doing? Tumblr.com/blogsoftstorith. That's Tzorith, silent T, baby. Okay, here's the copy that I have. Gyaru Beach Club Endless Summer is a Gyaru-inspired game hosted on the classic Game Station console released in 2002. Players can host several different types of parties hosted on the tropical island of Oahu. Man, I used the word host twice in one sentence. That's not good copy. Well, obviously I'll have to go through and edit this. Enjoy serving ice cream and floats, hosting volleyball tournaments, or even a surfing competition, and many other party events. I could just put that on the back, after I cleaned it up, of course. And that would be super easy. And I would just have to, like, basically maybe do something kind of similar to this ocean background scene that we have going on. We'll have to see. I'll have to experiment. But I do have some other things planned for this particular project. I have been going back and forth on whether or not I want to learn like a little bit of coding to make a very simple kind of like dress up game maybe. So I have a couple of ideas for that. One of my ideas that I am working on is a get ready with me thing for Jelly Sorbet. Now, I don't have any coding skills currently, but what I do have is editing and animation skills. So I'm thinking about making, well, I'm in the process of making a little project where I animate together a demo for a game that doesn't exist. I'm making a demo for this game, Gyaru Beach Club Endless Summer. And I have 2 sections planned out already and a possible 3rd section. So we'll talk about it now, and if you see progress on this, you see progress on this, and if you don't, you don't. Let me grab my little commonplace journal. If you don't know what a commonplace journal is, fucking, I don't know, put a comment. I'll talk to you about it. So I have one section, one mini game that I have planned out is the Get Ready With Me section, which doesn't have a title quite yet, but I want to do it like in the style of like those makeover games. I remember playing Webkins when I was younger, and I really loved going into the bathroom and giving my Webkins a bath. Like, I don't know, getting them wet, putting the little soapy bubbles on them, washing them off and getting them dry. I would do that endlessly. So I was thinking about adding it into the Gator Beach Club. Now, the problem is, I don't want this to be pervy. Okay? That is the opposite of my goals. So I think I might just do like a little shower head to go over her hair, and then you just wash her hair. Only bubbles and soap go on her hair. Wash her right off, and then she goes into a like towel head wrap, and then you can go in and choose hairstyles. I think I want to do 4 to 5 different hairstyles and 8 different colors that you can choose from. That's going to be a lot of work. I mean, obviously, if it's just a demo, I don't have to do every single color. But like I said, we've been tossing around the idea of learning some code so I can do this as a real game, because I think it would be really fun and cute, and I think the world needs more girly art. So I don't know. Anyway, so then I have a little cosmetics page, which I've actually sketched out the cosmetics page. I want it to be like a little point and click with a bunch of different mascara types, blush, I just realized I have a discrepancy on this. We're gonna ignore that. Some lipsticks, some tan colors. With skin tone, I know that like a lot of games have had a problem with not having a representative shade of skin tone. So I wanted to make sure that I have at least 6 skin tones, but I want to make the lightest shade, basically the shade that Jelly Gyaru is right now, which she's like a nice like tan color. I think she's like a really good light shade for Gyaru specifically, because they tend to have their darker shades as like their foundation, and then they add white to build up on top of that. So I think having anything lighter than that would really kind of destroy the effect. And then I want to have one little white eyeliner called Glam, and I want the Glam to cycle through different versions of Gyaru makeup that you can do. So like they've obviously got the Gyaru makeup that Jelly already has with like those white sections underneath the eyes, and sometimes they do go above here, but then some Gyaru, they have like a little line on their nose, or they have a line with a little triangle right here. But I want to make it cycle through at least 3 different versions of what I'm going to call Glam. And then I'll have a couple of different eyelashes. I think I'm planning on 3 different eyelash lengths. Again, it's just a demo. I don't have to do all of them. Not for the demo. Well, I don't know. I haven't decided how. We haven't got that far yet, guys. We have not got that far yet. I thought it would be cute just to kind of have those little, I don't know, like interactable. I think interaction is really, really fun. And I really want to like hone in on that early 2000s girly experience of going on like Girls Go games and playing dress up, but like in a more adult way. And I do plan on this being more of an adult adventure kind of game, at least in my head. The second mini game that I have, it doesn't have a name quite yet, or maybe it does. Let's check the notes. I really, really love my commonplace journal. If you do not have one, look it up immediately. Let's make one together. It will help you keep organized. La la la. Jelly Sorbet's Beachside Beverages is the working title so far. I don't know, it's a little bit of a mouthful, but the idea is to serve sorbets and like mixed drinks in a Papa's Pizzeria style kind of gameplay, because I really like those growing up. I didn't play specifically Papa's Pizzeria, but like getting orders, creating orders, and sending them out was something that I really enjoyed. There's that one pizza mobile game that I really loved playing all the time, so I wanted to do that. I wanted to have our regular sorbet. I want to have 8 flavors: passion fruit, coconut, cherry lime, pineapple and magic flavor. Magic is just whatever flavor I need for the later sections. But I wanted to have it be kind of like glowy and multiple colors. And in my mind, I'm like, ooh, it reminds me of when I went to Disney World and there was a drink that I got there. It's like some kind of pineapple-y something, and inside was like a little ice cube that was like glowing, and it like cycled through colors, and I'm like, ooh, the magic could cycle through colors like that. Very magical, very fun, very whimsy. Okay, so you've got your 8 sorbet flavors, but then you can throw the sorbet in the blender with some shots or some THC shots, because this is an adult game, and you can make different drinks. I think I have 6 planned. I have a lime Ricky, a pina colada, a magical punch, pink paradise, sunset breeze, coastal blue. I put a lot of thought into what you would do with each flavor and what you would combine it with. So we have vodka, white rum, tequila. So we'll have 3 different types of alcohol, and then obviously your THC shot. Combine your shots with a sorbet flavor in the blender, and then you create your mixed drink. I actually went through and wrote out like little recipes for what I thought these would be and what I actually thought would be tasty in real life. So there might be a taste test coming soon. At least in my world, you might not see it. But you can actually decorate it as well and choose a different cup. And so each drink has a unique vessel. Ooh, I use the word vessel. So 2 per drink. So each drink will have 2 unique containers that you can put it into, and then you can choose from any number of decorations. I have on my list so far maraschino cherry, pineapple orange, flower with multicolors, a weed leaf with multicolors, umbrella with multicolor, coconut tree, pineapple leaves, and then I think I'll probably add straw onto that list too, because who doesn't want to drink their boozy little drink with a straw? And then magic will change the color of any drink to the color that I need it to be. Listen, it's magic. I can do whatever I want. And then I am actually experimenting currently. Last night I did some little sketches of a little pet section, because I really wanted Jelly Sorbet to have a pet. And I'm torn right now. I want her to have a pet, and I thought about doing a chihuahua, and then I'm like, what would be cuter than to do like little sea creature guys, but I want them to be like a little bit magical. Okay, so I was thinking about playing Kirby 64 when I was younger, and there's a little guy, he's a little sea angel, and if you float above him, he has like these little 3 spikes that like spike up and attack you. But I was like, the sea angel is so cute. So I started experimenting with sea angels and sea horses and sea bunnies, just like a bunch of little creatures, trying to combine them together to create new little creatures that you can take care of. And then I want there to be like little bedrooms for them that you can decorate with like little pillows or beds or string lights and stuff like that. I don't know. Something small. That's just me, like, in my own little imaginative world. Who knows how much of this is actually going to get done, but it would be very fun. Here are some of the designs that I was thinking about. This guy right here is probably my favorite guy, and then the little seahorse guy is also really awesome. And then I have another sketch page here. I like this bigger kind of, I don't know, sea dragon guy. I got some little turtles and squids and stuff. Really just throwing out a lot of ideas. I tend to not show people my sketches because they are pretty sloppy, but I'm getting used to having this be part of the process and being okay with showing things in a rougher state than I would like them to be. I think that's a big part of growth, is being able to show where you came from. Plus, earlier this year, I did a project on ArtStation where I designed a little creature, and I had to show all of my process from start to finish. The problem is that I would not let myself show the sketches, so I feel like I really lost out on an opportunity to show how I work through my own problems. And that's something I'm trying to correct now, which is why I'm trying to give myself a little bit more grace on making a video like this where I talk through the entire project instead of just talking about the final piece, because I think that there's a lot of personability that comes in to art and any artist's art, which is something that AI misses out on entirely. I think I could make a whole entire video about this, but this is like my art. It's me, it's a part of me. The stories behind how I create things or why I create things are just as important as the piece itself. So I did a couple recordings of this kind of video before, but I feel like it wasn't as authentic as this one is. So I will edit through those and see if they're any good, and if not, maybe I will redo them. I don't know. But I want to hold myself to doing this more often because it makes me feel good to go through the piece and walk through the happy feelings that I had making the artwork. And I hope you enjoyed listening to me. I hope you enjoyed this little peek into my world, into my brain, and into this piece with Jelly Sorbet. I really like listening to longer videos where people just yap while I draw, so I hope, if anything, you were able to make something beautiful today. Remember to like, follow, subscribe, all that nonsense that tells our stupid capitalistic algorithm that this video was a good one.